Hello, this is Karla Shepard, and this is Technological Applications in the Classroom and Using Technology for Raising Learning Outcomes. So as I said, my name is Ms. Karla Shepard. I have a Master's of Applied Linguistics in ESL. I'm a Georgia State University alumnus. I am currently an associate professor in South Korea, and if you would like to contact me, you can do so at universityesl.karla@gmail.com. Okay, so let's get started. Here is the table of contents. First, I will go over the top 5 benefits of using tech in the classroom. After that, we will look at a current research study on the technology enhanced flipped classroom. Then I will talk about the tech applications that I specifically utilize. Then we will look at the theoretical underpinnings and tech apps for delivery. And then we will look at my personal experiences of application efficacy with examples, and then we will end with student outcomes via technological applications. So here, let's look at the top 5 benefits of using technology in the classroom. Number 1, you can create a more engaging environment. Where can we put this maybe here? It can help encourage active participation in your classroom. Using devices like a computer, tablet, or other type of technology in your classroom can help turn traditionally dull subjects into interactive and fun activities. Number 2, you can incorporate different learning styles. Each student in your classroom is different, and it can be challenging to adjust your learning plan to fit every student. Fortunately, technology in education can help you modify your lessons. Students can receive a more tailored experience that can benefit them in the future. Part number 3, it improves collaboration. Teachers have observed an increased frequency of students helping each other when they're using technology in the classroom. Many technology-based tasks involve other aspects, and this leads to situations where students need to seek help from their peers or the teacher. When students are assigned to small groups, the students who are more technologically advanced can assist their inexperienced peers. Part 4, it prepares students for the future. According to a CompTIA study, 9 out of 10 students indicated that using technology in the classroom would help prepare them for the digital future. By teaching students skills like PowerPoint, you can set your students up for success. Introducing instructional technology in the classroom at a young age can help prepare students for future digital demands. In part 5, it connects you to your students. Technology can help teachers form a better relationship with their students and their colleagues. For example, 84% of teachers report using the internet at least weekly to find content that will engage students. Integrating technology into your lesson plans, as well as using it to expand your own knowledge of subject matter, can make a significant difference in a classroom. Technology will undoubtedly continue to evolve, and it's important to adjust your classroom style to align with its advancements. Okay, so next, let's look at this research study that was done by Kevin Fuchs in 2021. It's called Evaluating the Technology Enhanced Flipped Classroom Through the Student's Eye. So by the way, what is a flipped classroom anyway? Okay, so a flipped classroom is a type of blended learning where students are introduced to content at home and practice working through it at school. This is the reverse of the more common practice of introducing new content at school, then assigning homework and projects to be completed by the student independently at home. In this blended learning approach, face-to-face interaction is mixed with independent student, independent study, usually via technology. In a common flipped classroom scenario, students might watch pre-recorded videos at home, then come to school to do the homework, armed with questions and at least some background knowledge. The concept behind the flipped classroom is to rethink when students have access to the resources they need most. If the problem is that students need help doing the work, rather than being introduced to the new thinking behind the work, then the solution the flipped classroom takes is to reverse that pattern. And the purpose of the flipped classroom. The main goal of the flipped classroom is to enhance student learning and achievement by reversing the traditional model of a classroom, focusing class time on student understanding rather than on lecture. So here is the flow chart of the flipped classroom model. Okay, so stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Stage 1 is the pre-class, where the student prepares whatever you've assigned to them. Stage 2 is during class, and this is assisted, where the teacher assists the student in the work that was prepared for the class. And a typical way to do this is to have some sort of discussion about what was prepared for class. And then stage 3 is the post-class, where the student again is working independently and they are meant to reflect on the discussion in stage 2, or perhaps what they had prepared in stage 1. Okay, so back to the research study here. We have who was researched. In this research study by Kevin Fuchs, 2021, full-time distance graduate students at Linnaeus University in Sweden at the Faculty of Technology. There were 5 female students and 2 male students. What was researched? How students perceive the usefulness of TECF. When was the research done? During ERT, due to COVID-19. The type of research methodology used. There was a qualitative methodology via the use of empirical data collected from semi-structured surveys and thematic analysis. The technological applications used were Zoom, Moodle, the learning management system, Google Suites, as in Google Slides, Google Documents, Google Drive, and Google Hangouts. Okay, so here is the student data that was taken from this study. There are benefits found and they were deficiencies. So let's start with the benefits. The students learned from their peers. There was motivation to prepare in advance. There was the ability to watch the videos, rewind the videos, and take breaks. There is a possibility to actively contribute during discussions. They were preparing in advance leads to better learning outcomes. Preparing in advance and the ability to have a more sophisticated discussion. They can listen to what peers think about a specific topic. And there's more interesting content when discussing with others. And let's look at some things that they found to be some challenges in this study. So there's less flexibility in a noisy environment. The topic is new and they felt insecure to answer in front of their peers. there was initially a communication barrier, and there was some avoidance to take responsibility for learning tasks and assignments. And the main advantages in the study, as defined by the researcher: number one, the discussion assisted them to foster knowledge transfer. Despite the fact that the participants had different levels of participation in the discussion according to their perceptions, all participants agreed that the discussion amongst peers was helpful to advance their knowledge and reach the learning objectives of the course. In part two, the ability to contribute and influence the discussion and affect their learning outcomes was perceived as particularly positive. And three, the flexibility to participate in the active sessions from remote locations and incorporate the course into their daily routine. All right, now next, let's look at the disadvantages. Number one, there was a limitation in the use of the TEFC method for a one-off session. The initial barrier to communicate required a series of meetings to engage in a meaningful discussion. And two, the teacher was needed and required as a facilitator to spark initial discussions while participants were still getting to know each other. However, the teacher's involvement faded as the sessions progressed. And lastly, a limitation was attempting to actively take part in the discussion when situated in a noisy environment, as this would not only disrupt your own learning, but it also affected other participants if there were noise disturbances. Okay. I'm sure we're all familiar with the noise disturbances that we occasionally have to deal with. Okay, so next, why we need to flip the classroom according to Fuchs. It is widely recognized that the relevance of educational transformation is imminent, and that flipped classrooms can offer a partial solution to the challenging task of providing quality education while coping with the increased number of students in distance education. And the flipped classroom concept can contribute to the effort to enhance student engagement and, respectively, improve learning outcomes. Okay, so now let's look at the tech apps that I currently utilize. So I will show you each. I use 4 main apps, and I'll tell you what each one I use for. Okay, so I have number 1, Google Suites. In Google Suites, I use Google Forms generally for surveys in order to have the students reflect on the class and their personal growth and where things are going, what they would like to see, if they'd like to see some changes, where they think that the class is deficient, etc. And then Google Docs, we tend to use this before class, during class, and sometimes post-class if the students have not managed to complete an assignment during class. And 2, we do use Zoom for class meetings. And 3, we use a learning management system. We use the LMS Moodle. That is used for homework upload, exam upload, links to Google Suites, PowerPoints, important class information, messaging, etc. And then 4, Flipgrid, which right now, I think I'm going to, in the future, incorporate into the stage 2 and perhaps stage 3. So during the discussion portion of the class and the reflection portion of the class, but currently I use it at the beginning of the semester for icebreaker activities like introductions and getting to know each other, as well as the end of course reflection. So let's take a quick look at Flipgrid. Okay, so it's this really savvy, very well designed website where students can go in and after they read whatever prompt you put up for them, go and just make a video right from their cell phone or their computer and upload it right away. You can leave them feedback right on their video, and you can also the students can also leave feedback to each other. I really encourage you to take a look at this. It's free and it's easy to use. Okay, so this is Flipgrid. Let's see. Okay, so let's talk more about Google Docs. Google Docs is also free, as I'm sure all of you know, and maybe especially now most of you have seen and used a little bit. So you can do a live collaboration between students and instructors, or between students. You can track your students' contributions. You can share links. You can allow students to edit shareable documents. You can create documents, and you can organize work that is streamlined for easier data synthesization. Okay. The ability to compartmentalize, share, and edit documents in real time would prove to be tremendously valuable to our courses. Okay, so let's quickly go over some of the theoretical underpinnings for the technological applications that I'm currently using. So we have collaborative learning, we have social learning, we have peer assessment, we have information and communication technology, +1 thinking, and input enhancement. Okay, the first 4 are the main theoretical underpinnings. Well, maybe even 5, all of them. Okay. All right, so I'll quickly go over these. Collaborative learning is working in groups of 2 or more together to enhance learning by solving problems, learning about new concepts, and completing tasks. Social learning is learning that happens from pair and group level all the way up to a societal level. This happens when peer groups interact socially with one another. Okay, so collaborative learning and social learning are very similar. Peer assessment is a structured methodology for students to provide feedback to each other after critiquing their peers' work against a rubric, for example. This enables students to learn valuable life skills in assessment, analyzation, and self-improvement. Now we have information and communication technology, ICT. It refers to technologies which enable social interaction and communication, such as the internet, computers, video conferencing, and other social networking, where users can store, retrieve, access, and manipulate information in a digital form. Now we have +1 thinking. It's providing learners an additional option for additional input. This can be in the form of another learner, the instructor, open source materials, etc. And then we have input enhancement. These are techniques used by content creators which attempt to make specific language features more salient by drawing attention to it. This can be done with boldface, italics, highlighting, font size, etc. Okay, so I've been teaching basic reading and writing, listening, and speaking since I started teaching at university. And I will show you the techniques that I employ in order to deliver my lessons. Okay, so here are my personal experiences and coursework examples. Okay, the move from analog learning tools, books, notebooks, whiteboards, poster boards, to ICT was one that I welcomed and learned to embrace. It created quicker gains, quicker learning gains in student learning outcomes and productivity. Also, students were way more motivated and able to share their creativity. Okay, so let's start with the reading and writing. This is via Google Docs. Okay, so this is a writing portfolio. Throughout this semester, the students are required to keep a writing portfolio with 4 writing pieces that include a research phase, a brainstorming phase, a rough draft, and a final draft. With Google Docs, you can very nicely organize your portfolio for your student. So let's see, I will maybe it's better to just do it this way. Sorry, one second. Okay, so here are the instructions. So there's like the research part, step 1, the brainstorming mind map section, step 2, and step 3, the rough draft. Okay, and finally the final submission after they've been given feedback. Okay, so before they complete the final draft, the students are paired up. Okay, let's just do this. The students are paired up. They are paired up in order to assess the work of their peer. And naturally, this peer assessment portion can be adapted to suit the level of your students. This doesn't even necessarily have to be a peer assessment. If you feel it's more suitable for the students to do a self-check, then that's fine as well. But assessment nonetheless, in the form of a checklist. Okay, so peer assessment, your name, your partner's name. It's very basic stuff. It's a yes, no, or partial. Is the essay 8 to 10 lines long? 2, is there a title in the center of the page? 3, is there an introduction with the topic sentence? 4, is the paragraph indented? 5, is the paragraph written continuously? And so on and so forth. So after the students assess their peer, they go back and do the final draft. And they do this 4 separate times with 4 different writing topics. So in order for this to work, you can go into your personal Google Drive with your Gmail account and you can create a class folder. Each student has their own folder in your drive, and you make the drive open and accessible to the students so that they can edit each other's documents. So when you do that, you have this data collection of all the students' input that the students can all access together and use whenever they want to use it. They have multiple examples of their peers' work in it, and that's what they use throughout the course to interact with each other. And you can use it as well to monitor their interactions and to check how they are assessing each other. And, maybe every now and then you might have to intervene or make sure that things are going along smoothly. Okay, so this is what the basic writing portfolio looks like. let's go back to this presentation now. And the listening and speaking portfolio is very similar. It's got that same linear format for easier organization and synthesization of data. Okay, they can look at everything at one time. Okay, so the speaking assignments, let's see. So there's also 4 of these. Okay, speaking assignment 1. Okay. So I've not found a way for the students to put audio files into their own Google document. So that's a separate folder that their partner has to access when they are assessing their partner's work. And I haven't had a problem with that, but maybe eventually there will be some way that everything can be in one place, because it makes it, the workflow is much better. Okay, so yeah, here's where the students input their information for their project, whatever their topic was, and then right up under it is their the peer assessment portion. Okay, so we're looking for different things here, naturally, as it's a listening and speaking course. Did the speaker speak at a good pace, not too fast, not too slowly? Did the speaker enunciate? Did they pronounce words clearly? Is the speaker difficult to understand? Did the speaker speak loudly enough? So on and so forth. Okay, and that's pretty much the listening and speaking course. Okay, it's the same sort of overarching principle. That's the students' work. It exists in a sort of open forum, and so it's like a big collection of data that the students can interact with, collaborate with, and ultimately learn from. Okay, so that's how I use Google Docs. And for the reflection, we do sample surveys throughout the course. We do a pre-survey, a mid-survey, and a post-survey. Here's an example of how to use the Google Suite, Google Forms, as a means to do a reflection for your students. We were learning about self-confidence because it's needed. And so here we have a survey where students answer questions like, well, what is self-confidence? Many people suffer from low self-confidence. What do you think are the most common causes for low self-confidence? What do you think can be done to help students gain more self-confidence in speaking and performing in class? And so on and so forth. So there's a plethora of uses and benefits from getting to know your student body better, and from then tailoring your lessons to suit their psychological, emotional needs and development. Well, let's move on then. So let's now finish up with the student outcomes with the tech apps. It's interactive and engaging coursework environment. It's open source, shared, digital form, provides students with varied and multiple solutions to problems via input from peers and instructors. Peer assessment helps to motivate students and reveal their weaknesses and strengths to them. Students can stay more organized. You remember the days past where we used to have book bags, and some of us were super neat because we had notebook checks, and some of us just kept papers everywhere. Well, there is no need for that. Everything is so organized for students because it's paperless, right? it's digital. Editing is done live and feedback is immediate. It's easier to keep track of when work was submitted because you can read the last edited date. Hopefully this becomes more advanced over time. And students pick up target language forms, etc. much quicker. It's just one of those things, like psychologically, it's a social thing. It's a socially interactive societal thing. Like I've noticed this. I've seen this when I was younger in school. For example, I used to have this one class where we all had a group of blocks, a group of puzzles. Each person was given a puzzle and a picture, and we had to take the puzzle blocks and make the picture. And it was very strange. It seemed like everyone would struggle at the same time, but after the first person successfully designed the picture with the blocks, it's like suddenly it wasn't hard anymore and everyone could complete the task right after the first person was able to complete the task. So it's something about this sort of concept, which I'm not sure exactly what it is, that's just intrinsically motivating, and people tend to work harder and find tasks easier after they've seen other people complete the task successfully. So there we go. And finally, thank you. Let's end with this quote from Steve Jobs. He says, "Innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity and not a threat." And I hope this is the way that we can all see the future and technology and using it to create learning outcomes quicker and to keep up with the pace of our students' learning and the digital age. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much. I hope to hear from you, and take care and goodbye.